Welcome to Make It Your Business, the podcast. Get the advice you need to grow your business by getting guidance from industry experts and interviews with successful small business owners. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
Here again.
Hello.
Good morning. Afternoon even. Where's time gone? Oh,
It's been a busy day.
definitely. What we talked about today, dude? What's on your mind?
So today we're going to be talking about when the right time is to employ someone.
Okay. So, two trains of thought here. So we're talking, when's the right time to get your first employee? Or are we talking about a possible business partner?
Well, maybe it's like
We touched on it. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, what's my thoughts on this? Okay, should we do business partners first?
sure.
Yeah. Okay, so there is some magic in having a business partner, sharing the load. It's very lonely. It's very lonely being a business owner, entrepreneur. You know, especially if your wife's not involved in the business, your partner, your husband, because your friends will assume you're rich because you're in a business and your life's glamorous, and your customers just want you to serve them. Your suppliers act in a certain way towards you, and you have all these potential problems you don't know how to solve.
Yep.
It can feel quite isolating. So there is true merit sometimes in potentially bringing a partner in. Shareholding aside, minority, majority, blah, blah, blah. My warnings towards that would be definitely have the prenup before the wedding. So I've been in 3 different business partnerships.
Yep.
One ended very badly, and 2 are harmoniously continuing. So it's pretty good. But what I did after that first one is I made sure we all knew exactly. So if you are set up in a limited liability company with a shareholding, you've got several official documents. So one of those documents is essentially a list of rules that the directors agree to adhere by.
Okay.
And okay, the solicitors amongst us will be set it up officially, but the truth is it's an agreement between 2 parties. It can be, you know, self-drafted, but it's what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. Much like my view on hiring people, which we'll talk about how to hire people, it's very much about setting expectations from the start, because you will always find that 2 or more partners are not equal, either in the work they do or the type they do.
Okay.
And certainly from each individual perspective, they can't see the other person's point of view. So for example, be a salesman that, say, brings in all the revenue, but may only work 1 day a week, and an operations person who brings in, does 5 days a week, 100 hours, may not be seen as equal, but both components, essentially, as a general thought chain, you need, for to grow a business, you need to cover your finance side, your sales side, and your operational side. Yeah, and that needs to be split between 1, 2, 3, and so on, departments. But it's really important to get the expectations down, especially when you're in that honeymoon zone. You know, just come in, you're buzzing about the idea, whether you're starting it or you are choosing to bring somebody within your child, because that's what all businesses are to owners, isn't it?
Yep.
It's their little babies. So yeah, super important to have those conversations. And yeah, I mean, it's just that open communication. We adopt in our business a regular, it's almost corporate-like. I know it sounds ridiculous, but we have a quarterly meeting with an agenda just to set us all on the right.
Like a board meeting stuff.
Yeah, basically. And officially you're meant to have board meetings, but it doesn't mean a board meeting can't happen with a pint in the pub.
Yeah.
There's just, you have to write the minutes up, etc. But the point of it is we do have set times and agendas to talk about difficult subjects and communal decisions.
Yep.
The other interesting thing with business partners, I found work, is to agree which departments belong to who, and that they have veto on it.
Yep.
Because, say, for example, you are 100% shareholder and you give me 10%.
Yep.
you're obviously bringing me in for a skill set and a support mechanism. If you then override my skill set experience just because you're the majority shareholder, it's just counterintuitive. So I genuinely think it's super important. Okay, you're Mr. Sales.
Yep.
You've come in, you've got the experience, no problem. Within your world, you get decision-making capabilities and get the opportunity to, veto a particular movement. Okay. It's not for everyone. It requires you to relinquish some control, but you'll bring somebody in to move the needle forward.
Okay.
So that's the business side. On the smaller scale, I do think one-man bands, as I'm going to call them, solopreneurs, potentially bring in people a little too early. They're not exhausted other avenues. So, for example, I generally find they are overworked, and I would genuinely impress them to look at outsourcing elements to reduce that workload. The second main pain point is the overbearing weight of decision-making, unknowns, lack of information, fear. And again, forums, networking events, watching videos like this, listening to podcasts.
Yep.
Again, it won't fill the voids, but up into a certain amount of revenue, essentially you start off as a solopreneur and you've essentially bought yourself a job.
Yeah.
And then your job, reality, is not actually serving the client. You've got to do that for the business, but your job is to remove yourself from a job and become a business owner. The long-term goal for any entrepreneur, business owner, is to earn an income from that business without any input.
Yep.
That's when you really own a business. Now, most of us choose to stay within the business in some capacity because you wouldn't start it unless you enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the general times I can think about, I spoke to people in this subject, is when they've been overwhelmed or felt overwhelmed.
Because I know you've brushed on this before as well, and you've spoken about outsourcing different jobs within the business, whether it's on websites like Fiverr or people who are skilled in that particular industry. Like, where would you draw the line between outsourcing and then hiring on one person to take on a particular job?
Yeah, there's lots of people online that give their opinions. They go, "Oh, you need to do half of me, and you need to do a quarter of me." The truth is, it's when that function deteriorates by you actually doing it as opposed to somebody else. So I'll give you an example. We acquired a business. Now, I actually did the bookkeeping for the first 6 weeks. It helped me to be more into the business, understand the costs, but more than that, they didn't have a bookkeeper. There's a whole hiring process.
Yep.
She's amazing, the lady that we've hired. She's been doing it for 20 years. She can do in 10 hours what was taking me 20.
Yeah.
And I'm not on numbnuts when it comes to numbers, but she's a professional for what she does. So, how do I eloquently say it? I mean, you have to wear a lot of hats when you start. There's no doubt about it. You have to get revenue through, but you have to identify when the change point is. And that is if you doing that action is detrimental to either the outcome of that action or others. So a good example of that would be if you are the person who's dealing with the sales inquiries and customers.
Yep.
If you're then staying up late to do the books and then you're tired. And again, something we'll talk about a lot as we get chatting is, I like to measure things because I think anything you measure increases. You've got a situation where you're not going to be as productive. You won't close. And by closing, I don't necessarily mean force them to buy, but I mean be as resourceful, be as helpful, creatively solve their problems, understand it. And you just won't be switched on if you're burnt out.
No.
You can't be really good at everything. So it's at that stage. But I would implore people to... I mentioned bookkeeping. I'll tell you where my brain's going. The reason I mentioned bookkeeping, this is really taboo subject with small business owners. They hate giving up the bookkeeping. Okay? 99% of them I speak to hate bookkeeping. But it's their money. It's their bank account. They don't want anyone else to see what they're spending here. And 99 times out of 100, they're doing nothing wrong. They're running a business. That's a taboo. time and time again, I've had to say to people, look, this is not your money. This is the business money. I like to think as the business is its own sort of, in a lot of senses, it's its own legal entity, its own being. And you're just the steward, the owner, the guide, the captain. And it's getting people's mental state. If I gave up that particular element, the outcome would be better for A, me, B, the client, C, the staff, if you're at that level. So when do I look to bring somebody else on? Definitely when you're failing in what you're supplying the customer, or when you're failing yourself by burning out. You've got the other side where people are too quick to give something up. I do believe, I think like I said earlier, where I've needed to understand the fundamentals of the business from a finance aspect. You need to, on a small business level, you need to kind of understand every function of your business. Because it's a lot easier then to monitor and manage other people, whether they be remote workers, outsourcers, an employee. You can have a gauge of what that looks like. If it takes you 20 minutes, it's a 20-minute job. I don't know, perhaps you're talented, but if somebody takes 4 hours, alarm bells are gonna go. But you know the interesting thing post-COVID? There's a lot of people now that don't want full-time jobs. You can bring on a very good marketer, very good salesperson, administrator, 10 hours a week, 20. If you really enjoy that humanized touch. Outsourcing is fantastic. You have to have an organizational element. You have to have, what does a job entail? If your business is very process driven, it's a lot easier than, I don't know, I need Margaret to come in so I can show her the job. So I do understand that.
Okay.
But it can be a real boon. Again, I say to people when they are talking about bringing somebody else, well, what will you do with that time? What is the dedicated output that you're trying to achieve? You ever heard the phrase, if you want something done, give it to the busy person? Because, there are some people that they're always like, I'm just so busy, I can't do it, I'm so busy. And you've got the busy person who will accept the extra workload. And by doing so, they just prioritise, and then they find fundamental ways of being more efficient. And what I'm trying to say to you is, if you will try to free up time to de-stress, maybe you need to look at what you're doing. Maybe this business is too stressful for you. Maybe it's not what you want to do.
It's interesting what you said about, like if you get given lots of work and try and find ways of making yourself be quicker and more efficient at what you're doing. And obviously, I know we push on it quite a lot, but we talk about automation, and it's like, we can, automate certain things. Like, even in accounting, you can automate things. So like, for accounting for our business, like we use, rules so that when a particular transaction comes in, it's not a particular person, automatically assigns it to the right invoices. And again, for like bills and
So people don't know this exists. So like Xero is a very cheap program, a good accounts package. It's not an advert for them, but our invoices coming from the suppliers, they automatically go into a mailbox. It automatically gets entered on the bookkeeping. You only have to link it.
You just have to press confirm, match it up.
You can use the same program to create a quotation. But then you click of a button, creates an invoice that then sends it to the client, that they then click a link and pay you. And it's like £29 a month or something like that. We're talking ridiculously low for essentially knocking out a lot of work. Previously, dude, it would have been, if you think back, even 15 years ago, it was double book entries. Then the likes of sort of Sage came, even if it was quite clunky.
Because I've got that app that links through to Xero, so you don't have the app on the smartphone, and you scan it with your receipt, so
that's it. So as you're paying, you get
scan the receipt, and like it automatically like goes through, works out the amount, works out who the meal was for, and then like works out how much VAT's in there as well, and then pushes it to Xero so you can match it.
And that removes a lot. So again, that highlights what I'm saying to you, dude. Those situations where it's like, well, do you need someone for that? You may feel overwhelmed. You may feel like you need somebody, but actually, we use the word automation, but I suppose in a layman's side, it would be finding technology to make life easier. But for you, you're a tech guy, all the digital marketing stuff you do is very easy, but that particular example, I would say anyone could set up Xero.
Yeah.
There are video tutorials on the page. I'm picking that piece of software, but I want people to understand that if you commit to saying, right, I will Google search, how can I improve X?
Yeah.
These software packages that are coming out with the AIs and machine learning, they are purposely designed to be very intuitive and easy.
Yep.
Excuse me, friendly to set up. So I would exhaust as much outsourcing as possible, as much automation as possible. I would give some headspace to why is it you want to bring somebody in, because removing the weight, the psychological weights could be done through networking, finding a mentor, reading articles, blogs, If then, once you've exhausted those, you still don't have the capacity to serve and allow for growth, because that's what we're here for.
Yep.
That's what I'd look to bring someone in.
Okay.
Cool. Right, sounds good. Thanks.
So we get back to work.
See you later.